Hi, and welcome to Something to Talk About. If you're watching us live this evening, happy Valentine's Day. Before we begin, I would like to invite you, if you are watching us live on this wonderful Valentine's Day, you can always give us a call at 781-270-9199. I think that's the number. Yes, I never call, so I always forget the number. Or if you think of a question later on and you'd like have a suggestion for a future topic, you can always email me at talk@bcattv.org. And as always, I want to thank my wonderful crew for this evening. Chris Flaherty, who's one of the staff members here, makes sure that everything's up and running smoothly, and yeah, basically keeps us volunteers out of trouble. And I would like to thank Stephanie Floridas and Jolie Atwood for giving up their Wednesday evening again to come and hang out here at BCAT and help me out. And last but definitely not least, I would like to thank my husband Paul for staying home for Daddy date night. Hopefully the kids are in bed by now because, like everyone else around town, they're fighting some kind of bug. So, with all my paperwork aside, I would like you to meet my wonderful guest for this evening. We have Kate Genovese, who is an author. You've written several books, and you are also a mother who experienced some pretty stressful years lately through, I don't know if it's through the loss of your youngest child.
Yeah, Chris.
So,
Gino.
Thank you very much for coming. I can only imagine how difficult it must be for you to keep retelling the story over and over again. But it's definitely a story that needs to be heard, and people need to start doing something about it. I think that's a fair enough statement. So as we begin, can you tell me, me and our audience, a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, how you came to the Burlington area, and then we'll get into why you decided to write this book.
Sure. I grew up in Watertown.
Okay.
And I am one of 7 children. I'm the 6th of 7. And I grew up there, left there when I was, after nursing school. I went to nursing school in Boston.
Okay.
Yep. And worked in Boston for a little bit and met my husband, and we decided to travel a little bit, go out west. I had a girlfriend that lived in Denver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty far west.
Yeah. So that story
Did you like
is
to
that's
ski
a little
or
bit
anything?
in
Or? I do remember the Colorado, and then you
the
also went out to San
Seattle.
Francisco. Oh, okay.
Seattle, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I had my first child, Jessie.
Oh, okay.
So
now is she still out in that area, or is she?
No, she's back. She was just born there. We moved back here when she was a year old.
Okay.
Yeah, 1978 with a big storm.
Oh, yes.
And we were living there, and everybody was calling us for back here. They had nothing to do except use the phone and call. So I got a million calls.
We're snowed in. What you doing?
But believe it or not, I got homesick.
I do believe it. I moved to South Florida for a couple of years and could not wait to get back to New England.
Yeah, so. I said, I want to be part of the snowstorm.
Well, that I'm not so sure about, but, you know, I'm a big fan of autumn. Love the foliage, and, you know, seeing palm trees, just not the same.
Constantly, yeah, I know it. So, anyways, we came back, lived in Belmont for a little while, and my husband got a job at the town of Lexington in Public Works.
Oh, excellent.
I found a job at Leahy.
Very good place to work.
So we said we probably should move back up this way a little bit.
Okay.
To be closer to our jobs. So this is how we landed in this area.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned Jessie was born out on the West Coast.
Yeah.
You have had 3 kids. And were you a stay-at-home mom? I don't remember. I know you said in the book, but oh, that's right, you continued to work.
Yeah, I went back to nursing school. I was an LPN at first.
Oh, wow, okay.
So I went back to school when my son Danny was about a year old.
Okay.
And so I got my RN.
So how far apart are Danny and
Well,
Jess?
Dan and Jess are just 2.5 years.
Okay.
And so
And
Christopher's
Chris is
six years from Dan. Yeah, because I was in nursing school when I did get pregnant with him.
So
yeah,
we will, as we discuss the book itself, we'll learn more about what the book is about. Now, Gino, or Chris, overdosed when he was 30 years old.
yes.
I can't imagine what you went through for that. What made you decide to put that story into print? Because that seems like something pretty personal to me anyway.
Oh yeah, it's very personal, and I thought about it. You know, I didn't know if I could do it emotionally. I didn't know if I could do it. But this isn't my first book. I have 3 other books.
Okay.
So I started a grief group at my church at Grace Chapel.
Okay.
And one of the things they said is to journal, write things down, write your thoughts down, anything that's bothering you. If you want to yell at people on a piece of paper or yell at God on a piece of paper, anything, get it down.
Don't send it, but just get it out. Okay.
But I all of a sudden just said, I don't know, I feel like my journaling is coming into a book. So, yeah, so on September 1st, I started the book.
Of 2017?
2016.
2016, okay.
When Gino, I think I'll refer to him as Gino.
Okay.
Just because
Yeah, you said that was kind of his nickname that started in high school?
Well, it started earlier than that, but I didn't know he never introduced himself as Christopher until his wake, which is really horrible place to learn it, or you know, whatever. But everybody, he said, Gino this, Gino that, and I said to his girlfriend Heather, or his ex-girlfriend Heather, did everybody know him as Gino?
Did anybody know his name was Chris?
And she said he always introduced himself as Gino. It was just Gino. It wasn't Gino Genovese. It wasn't anything like that. It was just Gino. So a lot of people didn't even know Chris.
So who's this Chris person you're talking about? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Gino passed away in May. Was it Memorial Day weekend?
Yeah, it was Memorial
of
weekend.
2016.
Correct.
So after about, that's only 4 months. Wow, that's a pretty quick decision.
Yeah, well, I'm not one that just sits around and, you know, wallow in my pity. I just can't do that. And I said, I'm just going to write, and I'm going to start writing just his life. I'll start with his life.
Okay.
And I started to do it that way, and then I said, well, I need to let the readers know about my life and my husband Gary's life first, how we met. So I made a bunch of changes in the very beginning. And when I started to write his story, and started in first grade and whenever, and we had a lot of time together, it was fun writing it. I mean, it was really fun. I could remember.
Because you're bringing back the memories.
Yeah, and he was a really fun kid. I mean, he was really fun to be with.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was a jokester. And
let's before we continue, let's look at one of the pictures of when he's age 5, I think is the earliest. Actually, we have age 4, but I think age 5 is when he's climbing in the tree.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe. I love that picture.
Yeah, that's nice.
Let's see if we can get it up there. Yeah,
I mean,
normal kid, loves climbing a tree. Did you ever like fall out of the tree?
Never. He was just coordinated and never fell out like I fell out of trees constantly growing up. So yeah, he was a really cute kid, and it was almost like he was a single child, because my other 2.
Well, 6 years is pretty noticeable.
So we did a lot of traveling around together, and he was very social, and he met kids fast.
Okay.
He had friends from his preschool days that he would still see.
Wow.
And
I don't think I remember any kids from preschool.
yeah, so he started the Reef School in Woburn,
Okay.
and he was just very popular kid. I'm not just saying that because he's my son. It was just noticeable, and
Yeah.
people would say, he's going to be the
seemed
mayor someday.
Yeah,
you know?
just very outgoing.
Yeah, very outgoing. And he was in a play, The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, in 5th grade. And he stole the show. He just knew how to act. It was great. So at the time, he was playing a lot of hockey too. And so
And when did he start hockey?
At 4.
Okay, so there's a picture of him at 4 where he's all, I think it's,
Oh,
is
do
it
we
the
have
cover
that
of your book?
picture?
Or, I don't know. I think we have the picture of him like where the equipment is bigger than he is.
Yeah, that was kind of his brother's older equipment.
Oh, his older brother's equipment.
Yeah, but he was
Yeah.
just joking around like, I'm ready to start.
I'm ready. Strap the, yeah, there we go. Strap the skates on, Mom. Ready to go.
Yeah.
Got my helmet and my, my gloves and my knee pads, my shin pads.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize you could start like playing hockey that young.
Well, you could go, and they had school hockey,
Okay.
like practice, so they could practice. I
Okay.
think it's a little older now, but he was 4 and out in the ice, and his brother skated. So,
Okay.
although he was a little older, Danny, the coach would let them go on Danny's team, and he'd
okay.
skate around a little bit.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So he loved hockey, but he didn't know if he loved acting more after The Wizard of Oz. So that summer,
Okay.
he took classes in
fun.
acting.
Okay.
And then he finished, and he said, "No, it's all hockey now. I'm
Okay.
done with that."
So when he went to college, he didn't decide to like study theater or anything. It was-
Nothing like
okay.
that. No. So he was
So hockey was a pretty,
definitely an athletic kid. Yeah.
Okay, because he also played football.
Well, you know, in kids when they're younger, they seem to play everything. They want to try everything out, like soccer and basketball. He was so terrible at basketball. It was funny. But he was very, very good at football and golf. My brother John taught him
okay.
how to play golf. So he started that in 6th grade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the summers, sometimes he'd go up to New Hampshire with my brother John.
Wow.
And he taught him. And he took classes also in Woburn,
Wow.
because there's a golf course there.
Cool.
Yeah. So he loved it, and he just simply played constantly, and he got a little overweight, like 4th or 5th grade, and
Okay.
he didn't make one of the independent teams, the Braves.
Okay.
So he came home crying, literally crying.
Now, is it because they had to like weigh in, like wrestling?
No, it's
or?
just that he was slow.
Oh, okay.
He just couldn't keep up.
Okay.
And he noticed it, so he said, I am going to make that team next year. So he went to all his friends, any coach he knew, and asked, can I go on the ice with you today? And he just practiced with every team he could.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of build up the
Build up, lose weight.
stamina. And
He went on his own diet, and by the next year, I think he lost like 20 pounds.
wow.
And plus, you grow, he's growing. So he made the team.
Excellent.
And then there was this independent team that was not just Woburn, it was kids from all over Massachusetts.
It's like an invitational thing, or okay.
Yeah, it was called Top Gun. So he played with those kids from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and that's where it was presented to him to go to a private high school.
Okay.
Yeah, so a couple of schools were looking at him for skating, really. I mean,
Wow.
he was a smart kid, but he
Yeah.
wasn't smart enough to get an academic scholarship, but he
Okay.
did get a lot of help with hockey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering, if it was, I didn't realize that he had never gone to Woburn High School, so he went straight to
Yeah.
Governor's
Yeah, it was a
Academy.
tough decision because he loved
Oh,
his friends,
absolutely.
but he said
And it was a boarding school too, so it wasn't like he
Yeah.
could come home at night and
he had to live there, so that was a big adjustment for my husband and I. All of a sudden there's nobody because the other 2 kids were in college.
yeah, it's like empty nest too early.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although no, Danny was a senior. That's right.
Oh,
so
okay.
actually, it was so quiet, and like without him running around, you know. So we left it at if he wanted to come back to Woburn, he could. So
okay.
that let some of the pressure off.
Okay.
Yeah. So he started Governor Dummer, and so I think it was 1999.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he stayed there all 4 years?
Yeah, and he actually did a 5th year.
Oh,
because
okay.
sometimes when kids go from public schools to private schools, it's a little harder academically. And plus he thought he could improve in his hockey because he had so many injuries.
Oh,
so he wanted that
Did he miss a
year.
lot of time at school because of his injuries?
Not particularly. He would maybe a week or two. Yeah.
Okay, so that's not too bad. I'm just thinking
Each time, yeah.
you know, he had injuries from hockey. Or actually, one was from football, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, the first one was from
First
football.
one was from football.
And the rest were from hockey.
Okay, yeah, because hockey's kind of a rough sport.
Oh, God, yeah, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
geez.
sense sarcasm in that statement.
Yeah, so yeah, sometimes we planned his surgeries over school vacation because they have a longer time. They have 2 weeks.
Oh,
So if it was an injury like his shoulder was popping out, he would just shove it back in and go out on the ice.
Yeah, no problem.
But knowing he had surgery in 2 weeks, so they'd wrap it up tight so he could play.
Okay.
And he could still play.
And do you think that's when the drug use started?
Yeah,
was the pain
definitely
medication?
started then because and it was hard for us to see because he was living away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he'd go back to school, he'd have his little vial and one of medication. And what I didn't know is the school nurse was actually supposed to hold on to all the meds that the kids took. But I didn't know that. That's one of the things saying, why am I trusting him with 60 pills of Percocet?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. I wasn't thinking.
Right.
I just trusted him. I didn't think he had a problem. I just trusted him. So finally.
Well, why wouldn't you trust your kid?
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
there was no reason at that point not to believe him.
Or what if somebody else in the dorm said, hey, Gino has 60 Percocets, maybe he'll give me one. I mean, you never know what kids will do. So,
Because also when you're, 14 years old, nothing will ever happen to you.
Yes, yeah, nothing will ever happen. None of us were worrying about him having an addiction. I just didn't think it would happen to him because, it runs in my family. Addiction does run in my family, and alcoholism, and which is the same disease. It's just a different drug.
Right.
So I didn't worry too much about Gino. But he was getting older, and it was, I think he had time off in his junior year, and he had his shoulder done.
Okay.
And on the way back to school, after he had stayed home a week on the vacation, it was time to go back, he said, can you stop at the doctor's? Because I have to get more Percocets. And I said, whoa, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Time out.
Yeah, you had your surgery a month ago.
Yeah.
You need to go right on to Percocet. You do not need more, right on to Motrin. You don't need Percocet.
Yeah.
So he, part of the disease is manipulation. And he was starting that, and he was trying to talk me into it, manipulate himself into how bad his shoulder is. And so I said, well, I'm going into the doctor's with you. So we went in.
Okay.
And I didn't mention the doctor's name because he's a good surgeon.
Okay.
And hopefully he is
I think
better at this now. Well, they have to be. The doctors are accountable, more accountable. So we went in, and I said to him, I'll call him Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones, do you really think Gino needs more Percocet?
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's been a month. And addiction runs in my family. And he said, look, and he's very stern. he said,
I need to work on your bedside manner there, buddy.
yeah, really. First of all, Gino isn't an addict, and shoulder surgery is extremely painful. It's one of the most painful surgeries you can have, and it is true. It is very painful. He said he needs his medication. He needs to get back on the ice, stop being a hovering mother or something like that, a helicopter mother, I think he said. So I was so intimidated.
Well, yeah, here's a medical professional saying.
But I was a nurse. I thought,
oh well,
I wish I had the guts to say no, he's not.
Yeah.
But I would have had the two of them on me.
Let's try it my way first, okay?
Yeah, I wish.
Well, hindsight's always 20/20. You know, it's like.
Yeah. So we went back to school, and I said, hand over the Percocets. I'm taking him to the nurse's office. So I brought him over there, and he was so upset with me, but I brought him over there, and she said to me, oh, I was surprised this is the first time he's had to take these. And I said, he's been taking these all along. I just didn't know I was supposed to bring him in here. And so she administered them.
Okay. So as a parent, you would have thought, okay, problem solved. You know, no more issues.
Little I know that he took probably about 10 or 15 out of there before he gave them to her, because he knew what I was up to. I think. So he had some, so he wasn't worried. So he got through school, high school, and he went on to college. He was really trying to do a Division I college, but with all his injuries, he couldn't have done it. So he went to Assumption in Worcester, which is a great school.
It is a very good school.
Yeah, and Division II hockey. And he had injuries there. It was just like a repeat of high school.
Oh, no.
And in his sophomore year, we said, Gino, you need to quit. You're getting hurt every time.
Yeah.
At least once.
You're abusing your body.
Yeah, exactly. And he said, I have to play. I just have to play. And I want to back up a little bit. There's something I forgot about. So when he was I'd say his second year of high school, he was acting strange. He wasn't paying attention. He was off. I thought he had ADD or something.
Okay.
The football coach noticed it. And then we got I got a phone call from his English teacher. And said,
the essay.
Yeah, Gino wrote an essay. The kids all had to write an essay when they got back to school about anything, what they did that summer, or if they traveled to Europe, or whatever you wanted to write. Well, he wrote about this family whose a family member sexually abused all three kids. And he was so mad that it happened that he bought a gun, and this kid, he didn't make it out to be our family. It was somebody else, fictional. And he took the gun and he shot one shot in the arm for his brother, one for his sister, and one in the heart for himself. So that put a red light on for the English
red flag
teacher.
there.
And he said, besides being really well written, he said, this kid's a writer.
Yeah.
I'm worried that there's something about this.
Yeah, what's going on here?
So finally we got it out of him, and that he was sexually abused by my brother.
And you had no idea. Wow.
No,
and
we didn't, not with him.
The siblings never let on as well?
Oh,
Because
no,
in the book you had mentioned, again, hindsight's always 20/20, so from the book I'm not sure if you were aware that this potential was there, or if it was just hindsight going, I should have said something. So.
Well, no, the thing is, yes, my brother had abused other family members, and he was put in jail. So, but it was when Gina was younger, so I didn't think that he would have been one of the kids. But memory comes back to you. So at the age of, I think, 6 months, you can start remembering things.
Oh, wow.
So he started remembering, and so he started to get angry, and he started to feel awful about himself. And so hockey was one of the things that he could do to get rid of his anger.
Yeah.
So why he was so adamant about getting on the ice.
It's a distraction, but it's also an outlet or a release.
A release,
So,
yeah.
Okay.
And we said, well, why can't you buy a punching bag or something, or or go to boxing or something like that? But no, he had
Become
to
a
do
fictional
hockey.
writer.
Yeah.
Just change the names.
Writing is really good for you. And he did write. He did write sometimes. But no, he needed that hockey. So, we just couldn't take it away from him.
Yeah.
It was just something he really needed. So, believe me, it was tough. His coach in his sophomore year said, Gino, I think this is it. I want you to help me. I'll let you be one of my helpers. He didn't say helpers, one of the junior coaches, or made it sound a little more important than the helper.
Yeah.
And he would have been good at it. And so I was so relieved. And the next thing I know, he's back on the ice.
Okay. Hello,
I know.
Mom over here, missed something.
Yeah. So I approached the coach, and no, actually, I was in the stands, and I see Gino go out, and I looked at the coach. What? And afterwards, he said, he just needs to do this.
Yeah.
He said, I have him really wrapped up, because now it was his shoulders. His knees were fine and all healed. Now it was his shoulder, and that was always
Running out of joints here.
I know it.
Shoulder,
and he
knee.
taught the kids, the other players, how to shove his shoulder back in. He'd lean against the boards, and he taught me how to do it even, because it would.
I've dislocated my kneecap more times than I can count, and shoulders just seem so much more complicated.
Yeah, he would do it swimming. So a couple of times we were swimming, I had to put it back in, and one time he had to go to the emergency room because he had spasms really bad.
Is this before or after the surgery, or because you said he had shoulder surgery?
Yeah, well, he kept having shoulder surgery.
Okay, same shoulder?
Same shoulder. And it's funny, the doctors never said don't stop playing.
Wow.
Ever. They just said they see it all the time. Doctors see it all the time. They patch him up and out they go. So there he was out on the ice, and finally gets through college.
Okay.
And gets a really good job in a lumber company up near Worcester. And he wanted to stay there because his girlfriend Heather was there.
Okay.
And so
they had met in college?
Yeah, so they had been going out 4 years, and they continued to go out, I think, 3 more. Yeah.
Okay. And then when did you, I'm like, I'm not paying any attention to my notes. When did you realize that there was a serious addiction problem?
Okay.
Because he had all these surgeries.
When it finally came into my consciousness is when I had some surgery in my mouth, and they gave me some Vicodin.
Okay.
And so I only needed 1 or 2, so I put them in the drawer. My drawer in the kitchen.
Yeah, like everybody's got one of those,
Yeah. But I said, let me change. I better put this somewhere else. And I looked, and they were all gone. No. I'm sorry. They were not gone. They were all not Vicodin. They were all another pill. So I asked my daughter, and I said, did you take any of the Vicodin? She goes, oh, Ma, I get sick with them, you know that? Danny wasn't around, didn't have to ask him. Gino admitted to it immediately. He said, I did it, Mom, I'm sorry, I was just having pain. And I said, well, you need to have that shoulder done once and for all. It was one last surgery, but he had a new job, and he didn't want to lose it.
Okay.
He just wanted to. So he said, I won't do it again. And, that might have been a red light, but I just thought he just had pain.
Yeah.
But I didn't want him to go through his whole life with pain.
Right.
And then there was a couple.
And you had no reason not to believe him at that point.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. So, and plus the drug of choice in my family of origin was alcohol.
Okay.
So I was really looking more for that.
Yeah.
And I barely saw that in him except for parties. One or 2 times, which was kind of normal for high school.
Yeah.
You didn't think twice about it. But anyways, where was I? Oh,
When did you realize it
yeah,
was
when I realized. So there was one other time that it dawned on me there's something going on. He called me. I was on the road as a visiting nurse. He said, "Mom, can you meet me? I need to pay my rent and I want to get thrown out." I said, "Gino, you're making more money than I'm making.
Yeah.
Like, where's your money?" And he made up some ridiculous story. So I said, "Okay, I'll meet you, and this is the last time I'm doing it." And so he was very disappointed that I made the check out to his
landlord.
He wanted the cash.
Oh, yeah.
So right then and there, I said, "All right,
okay,
there's something
this
going
isn't
on."
for rent.
So I just, he wasn't living at home either. He was still in Worcester.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, I would worry. He'd come home and it seemed normal, but then I'd hear these little conversations here and there with people on the phone. And, you know, I always had this worried feeling.
Yeah.
But then I'd brush it off when he'd just come out.
Kind of like your gut.
Yeah, he'd be normal. So finally, a year later, his roommate that he had at the time, not in college, but now he's out of college.
Okay. In the apartment where he couldn't pay his rent.
Yeah. Called us up and said, "Mrs. Genovese, Gino, I got to tell you, he's going to kill me, but he's really addicted to drugs."
Oh, and so they came right out and...
He said it, and he said, "And I am too."
Oh, wow. That must have been a hard phone call for him to make.
And he said, "And I'm going to California to a detox. I'm getting away from here." But he borrowed $2,000 from me, and I need it.
Yeah.
So we didn't know if this was like a fake thing, this kid looking for money, because this was a kid we didn't know.
Right.
We hadn't, I mean,
and did Gino put him up to it? You know, I don't know if he would have put him up to it because he's admitting that he's got a problem.
No, so I didn't want to handle this conversation, so I let my husband, I gave him the phone. I said, "You take care of this. I'm not sure if this is what's going on."
Well, yeah,
so
$2 grand is not exactly, you know, pocket change.
Yeah, so he hung up. He went up to his apartment, and he was sitting down in the bar because, of course, he lived above a bar. And he was down in the bar drinking a beer he couldn't even afford, tears in his eyes, and just spilled his guts to his dad.
Oh, wow.
And so we said, "We're cleaning you out this weekend, you're coming home.
Yeah.
You're not staying living here."
Was he okay with that?
He went along with it.
Okay.
Like he thought he could get better if he lived at home.
Okay.
And he said he wasn't.
So he was finally he was recognizing that.
Yes, but he wasn't addicted enough that he needed a detox. He said, "I can do this with AA meetings and Narcotic Anonymous meetings, things like that." So we gave it a shot, and didn't work. We could tell he was still getting high. 2 weeks later, he started again. He still had his job.
Well, in the book, you were also saying that, or I don't know if it was in the book or our earlier conversation, was even going to the NA meetings or the AA meetings, there were people there that were just in it to feed on the weaknesses of those who were addicted.
Yeah, the drug dealers. They were sitting in there pretending they were just, you know, really wanted to be at a meeting, because they knew there were men and women in there that it was mandatory for them.
Oh, okay.
Because sometimes if you're in a rehab and you go to a meeting, you have to have it signed.
Okay.
So these kids aren't trying to get straight.
Or if like you were in probation, you had to, So they're like, I know my audience, target audience right there.
Yeah, yeah. So halfway through, he said, "Let's get out of here." He said, "You know those two kids over there? I know them. They sold me drugs before, and that's what they're here doing." So I said, "Terrific. You know, what other options do we have here? Other meetings?" So he went to other meetings, and he was not doing well.
Other than the meetings, I mean, was there a support system where you could go to find out what, you know, were his doctors helpful at that point, or were you just not dealing with the doctors? Or
we weren't dealing with any doctors.
Okay.
We were just we were dealing with therapists.
Okay.
He agreed to see a therapist who was a doctor, actually.
So had it shifted from prescription meds to, just like heroin or?
No, he was still
Was
on
he
the
still-
street
Okay.
trying to get Percocets at this
Okay,
time.
still trying to get Percocets.
Now,
okay.
this is all I know, and somebody else might
again-
have a whole different story, like a kid that he
Okay.
knew said, wait a minute, that didn't happen. But
Okay.
as far as I know, that's what happened. He was still
Okay.
on the streets looking for Percocets.
Because also in your book, I don't mean to do a tangent, but I'm kind of looking at some of my notes
No,
that I
ask me
came up with.
questions, yeah.
You mentioned a gateway drug. Now, I remember having conversations with other people just where in my path that said there is no such thing as a gateway drug. Do you still see like marijuana and alcohol as a gateway drug, or do you have the same?
I think it's a gateway drug if you have the disease.
If you have the disease. Okay, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
I mean, if you don't have the disease of addiction, then you're just going to probably smoke pot and every once in a while. And if you can't find any, you're not going to flip out and go searching for it.
Okay.
That's my belief
Okay.
with all the drugs. Because there's some kids, I mean, there's hockey players now that have to take drugs for their injuries.
Yeah.
Are they all addicts? No, probably not. I mean, we just don't know.
Okay.
So that's my take on that.
Okay.
That's how I feel. Gino definitely said pot was a gateway drug.
Okay. So he started using marijuana and then kind of just.
He used marijuana. I didn't worry so much about that, although I don't like pot. I just don't. I don't like being with people. Their personality changes. It's just not my thing. I don't like it. So, anyways, he's,
So the AA meetings and the NA meetings weren't really working.
they weren't particularly working.
Okay.
We said, you need a detox. Every time we said that, he'd leave.
Oh,
He'd take his car. He was still working, by the way. So he'd take his
A
car.
little bit denial.
Yeah, and go live at a friend's house for a while. Then finally, he got in an accident with the company car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Was
that
he
was
okay from the accident?
Yeah, he was okay.
Physically?
He was physically okay, but he hurt the car.
Oh, yeah.
And so accidents happen. His boss was okay about it. But then it happened again. Yeah, and I'm not sure if it happened a third time.
Okay.
So they had
Those
to
moms
let him
are always
go.
the last to know.
Yeah, so they had to let him go.
Right, okay.
So when they let him go, that was tough because they really liked him.
And he was really good at the job, too. Was it
Yeah, it was
sales?
traveling, sales, yeah. He was
Okay.
very good. And he had told his boss somewhat about the abuse.
Oh, okay.
And so his boss was very, very kind and understanding. And he said to him, look, you should be writing down things about this. You could be the stand-up guy on TV saying, look, I recovered from this, and look how good I'm doing. Like, don't let abuse ruin your life. So he was all gung-ho to do that, and then that fell by the side of the way.
Well, because of the disease, it
was pulling at him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he needed those endorphins to get him high, and it wasn't just taking a run around the block. So, he would take off. That's right. Yeah, he would just take off, and then he'd come back, and it'd be fine for a couple of weeks, and then he got in trouble. He took my car, and he got in a car accident.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, and then after that, he drove without a license, and now he's on probation.
Okay. Now, is he back at home at this point, or?
He's still at home, but he's back and forth living with different people.
Okay.
And he's always working at something. You know, he always kept something going. He wasn't unemployed for very long. Like, he worked at a supermarket. He did this and that.
Well, we had mentioned earlier that he had this really outgoing personality, so he could probably, talk his way in any situation. And we had also talked about addicts being able to manipulate.
Right, as I said
So
earlier.
the two of those together, yeah, of course he could.
Yeah. So he did well for a while, and then um, my sister Irene got pretty sick with her cancer,
Oh,
and she
yeah.
needed me in Oregon. So
Okay.
I went out there, and while I was out there, he got in a serious
Ooh.
accident.
Okay.
Totaled the car, my
Oh
car,
no.
and he hurt himself a little bit, but not hospitalization-wise.
Okay. All right.
But I was out on the
'Cause
West
when I
Coast.
was reading the book, I'm like, I never thought of, okay, he got in a car accident. Oh, wait, was he injured to need painkillers?
Yeah, yeah,
Because that's just another prescription coming his way.
yeah. Well, this time they found drugs in the car. So they put him in jail for a month. And so during that time, we were trying to.
Did that help his attitude at all?
He
Or
was
his
very
motivation
frightened
to-
in jail.
okay.
And one guy in there said, because he was afraid he was going to get beat up. And I mean, he's a big guy,
Yeah.
but he's really a
He's a hockey player.
a teddy bear sometimes,
Yeah.
you know. So he was afraid of these guys that he didn't come from the same side of the road. I mean, he was different than these guys that were tough. That
Well, he went to private school.
I know
you
it.
know,
He just didn't look like
had
the
a
type.
good job. Right. Okay.
So some kid went up and protected him and said, "He's Italian. Leave him alone." So
Yeah, those Italians do have that
you
reputation.
you sit at the Italian table, I guess, to eat. You sit at the Italian table.
okay.
So off he was. He did anything they told him to do. So he was scared, got to get out of there, and we tried everywhere to find him a bed, like
In Massachusetts. Now, was it an insurance thing?
if you had money, if we had money,
Okay.
but we had already.
Yeah, you don't have that tree in the backyard that grows
We
hundreds.
absolutely will. He also had stolen some money,
Okay.
and we weren't going to give him any more money.
Right.
Enough's enough.
Well, I think you had also said in your book a lot of the detox centers only had like a 10% success rate.
Right.
So why dump all this money in if, even if you were a gambler, those aren't really good odds.
I know. A girlfriend of mine had her son go someplace in Western Mass,
Okay.
and it was $40,000 for the month.
Wow.
And then he came back, and he was just sober for 2 months and back on the street. When I heard that story, I said, I never do that. But
some people, that's their annual salary.
exactly. So my sister was a mental health worker, a clinical psychologist, and worked in drugs and alcohol.
Okay.
So we sat down and we called every detox
Center in Massachusetts.
and our sober house, because by the time I wasn't quite sure what he needed. He needed a rehab. He needed to get
something
off the
more
street.
than what he was getting. So,
Yeah.
okay.
So
This must have been an education for you.
Well, it was.
Versus detox centers versus, what did you just call them? Sober houses?
yeah, sober
Or-
houses. Yeah,
Okay.
there's a step. You go into a detox and you get
Okay.
dried out, and then you go to these other places, sober houses, rehabs.
So you kind of work your way
Yeah.
back up to normal.
Yeah, yeah. And so we called every place we knew in Massachusetts, and there was he was on Mass Health now.
Okay.
So there was no Mass Health beds.
Okay.
We had to call every morning at McLean Hospital to see if there was a bed. Never. So finally she said, my sister Carrie said, I know a place in Florida. And we called, and she had worked with them before, so she knew they had a good reputation.
Okay.
So it was a working detox rehab, and you stayed there for 2 years. And once you were stable enough, you could go out and work, and you lived there though, and you paid rent. So it was really good, and they had higher
Higher success
rates.
Okay.
So he got himself a lawyer, and no, actually he didn't that time. We had to do it. And so we got a Boston lawyer, and we thought he was doing a great job, but
You said in the book you would have done lawyers differently.
Totally. He knew the probation officer, and he knew the district attorney in Westboro, where Gino had to go to court.
Okay.
So he thought, no problem, all I have to do is tell them what to do and they'll do it. That wasn't the case. And so the month goes by and we're in court that day, and the judge, the lawyer and the judge are communicating, and we could hear him say Florida, and we got a good place for him. And so the judge looks at it, takes it, rolls it up in a ball, our whole plan, and throws it. And he said, "You think we're crazy sending him to Florida?" And that was it. You have to stay in Massachusetts. The lawyer didn't even try to explain what we had done.
Yeah.
And especially the probation officer, she did not like him. None of them tried to help him.
Wow. Do you think they were like, again, hindsight, do you think they were trying to use him as an example, or is it the
I don't know what they're
that's
trying to
messed
do,
up,
but I don't
or-
think any probation officers or any of the courts, if you violate probation, which he did a few times, they just want the money.
Yeah.
They don't even say, "How are you doing?" They
just
say,
going through the motions.
"Give us $300."
Wow.
And that's it.
Wow. So the system.
The system just wants money.
Yeah.
And that's all I could get out of it. I don't know anything else other than the probation officers. I'm not quite sure of what their job is.
Wow.
They said, "Well, you can
so the Florida.
file on him and get him and put him in Bridgewater State if he gets caught doing something." But we never quite caught him in the act of doing anything or hurting himself or us.
Because I thought you said you also didn't want to send him to Bridgewater because of the other people at Bridgewater and with Gino's history.
They were child molesters.
Yeah.
And supposedly they'd be in a different building, but I didn't know.
Yeah,
we didn't like that idea.
Because you had so much faith in the system at that point.
I know it. So we didn't know what to do, and so finally it came up that he could go on house arrest.
Okay.
And so he came home on house arrest, which the first 2 weeks was okay.
It seems like everything works for a couple of weeks.
And then it just goes downhill.
Yeah, it's like you're motivated, and then the motivation just dissipates. Yeah.
Dwindles. So so he
was that like a little ankle bracelet or something? So he had to stay on like a
GPS.
Oh, okay.
So he could only go out so far, and then as you do better, you get to go
a little bit further.
Take the bus up to there because it was in Lowell.
Oh, okay.
So a good thing I wasn't working. I drove him and I picked him up. But fortunately, we had some good conversations when we were.
A lot of travel time.
Travel time, yeah.
You can't really escape when you're in a car.
Yeah. And so once he could get a job, he went out and had a few jobs. But he was too connected up there in Lowell, the sheriff's office. Too many kids that had been in the system for too long and doing drugs since they were 12. And that's when he got really into heroin and the fentanyl.
Okay.
And that's when fentanyl was really becoming popular. And
well, you also mentioned in your book fentanyl, when they tested everybody for the drugs, they didn't test fentanyl.
I know it.
Has that changed?
Yes.
Okay.
It did change 2 weeks after my son died. But I had called them because he came home one day and he was high on something. And I'm saying, "What are you high on, Gino? They're testing you for drugs." And he wasn't going to answer me. So I called there and asked. And I said,
"What are you testing for?"
Yeah. I said, "He came home high. What are you testing him for? And why didn't you do something because he was high?"
Exactly.
They didn't care. They actually didn't care. So they said, we don't test for methadone or fentanyl because fentanyl's too expensive to test. And methadone you can't get high on. And I said, "Really?" For a fact, I know you can get high on methadone.
Okay.
You know, if you're on a methadone clinic and cutting down, maybe not. But if you get on it to get high, you get high.
Yeah.
So I can't believe you're not testing for it. God, it was just.
And it was really surprising that seeing him, I mean, this was like, was it the probation or what exactly was in Lowell?
Oh, yeah, it was what he had to do for house arrest.
Okay, so house
arrest. He had to go to Lowell for this, he had to go for classes to learn what drugs do to you.
So they were supposed to be educating him and, you know, like we had said, assumed that they were interested in his state of mind or trying to help him to keep him on the correct house arrest.
They didn't follow him. They trusted him because he went to a private school and he was a college graduate. They really didn't think he belonged there. They minimized his arrest.
But he's there.
Go figure.
And was it you or the book or somewhere I heard that, you know, addiction knows no zip code?
Yeah, it was me. Yeah.
Okay, that was you.
Yeah,
I like that because it's just so, it's like.
It's everywhere.
Okay, here he is, you know, not to, you know.
Brag or anything, but he did do well for himself, and, you know, we brought him up.
He's a white kid going to private schools.
Yeah.
You know, in a traditional family setting. Mm-hmm. You know, oh, he's immune. It's like, no, he's not.
Yeah. So he just had to stay there, and he was supposed to be there 3 months, and they let him out. He was ready to get cut and get out. He found another job. He was excited, and then all of a sudden they said, "No, we don't think you're ready." And that's what blew his mind. That's what he lost his spirit.
Yeah.
He had 3 more months he had to do that.
Wow.
So he was so bummed out, so bummed out.
We are running out of time.
Oh, goodness.
But one of the questions that I did have that I'd like to address, well, there's two, but you had mentioned there's a line between codependency and enabling and love. What's the difference between those?
Codependency is you're just codependent with the person.
Okay.
And you're almost like part of that person. You're part of their life, that you can't detach yourself from them.
Okay.
And love is just simply loving that person, even if it's tough love.
Okay.
And what was the other one?
Enabling. Because you mentioned like codependency and enabling are kind of the same thing. And I think you're like, I couldn't decide if I was codependent or if I just loved him. And so that's kind of why
I was codependent. I was fooling myself. I was too codependent. I couldn't get my mind off of him.
You couldn't see the forest from the trees.
Yeah, I was so worried about him. I could not get my mind off of him.
Okay.
In other words.
And the book, and I think you mentioned it, the book talked about how you went to Oregon to visit your sister when she was going through her treatments. At that time, or how many times did you think would have or should have when you went to Oregon, if Gino went to detox or if you went to Oregon sooner? I mean, did you ever try working through those scenarios in your head saying, well, if I went to Oregon sooner or if I stayed home, I mean, did that go through your head at all?
Somewhat, but I needed to go. I needed the break from him.
Okay.
Yeah. Do we have time to show any pictures or just
a
picture
yeah,
of
let's
him
just take a couple of pictures. So let's, let me get my cheat sheet.
Just the college ones.
So the college one,
College was nice.
College hockey grad, I think is number 6. Can we see that picture? Yeah,
that's when he's graduated. That's the last night he had skated, and we were on the ice with him, my husband and I, and he gave me flowers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So all the seniors did that, and he was captain of the team.
So what year was that? 2009?
2005.
And 5, okay. So then we also have a picture of 2007. Let's take a look at that picture. I think it's number 3, okay.
Yeah, so he's in the middle.
Okay.
Those are the two buddies.
Looking at him, it doesn't, you know, he looks, I know there's, you know, normal is a relative term, but it doesn't look like he's got any addiction
Well, you know, I
issues.
think he didn't always, and I don't know this for a fact, but I don't think he did drugs every single day that he was in school.
But still, it's in your system.
Yeah.
And
so,
I would think.
Yeah. So I think once he would start feeling sick, he'd go out and get something.
Okay.
And then there was this high school one that was.
Oh, let's
nice.
let's check out the high school one. There's 8, the high school hockey.
Yeah, that was a sophomore year, I think.
Okay.
Governor Dummer. And
We have 1989, 91, or 90 and 91.
that would be younger years.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm in a time warp. Okay, what about 2010? Photo number 11. Oh, look at how cute he is.
I know, and that's his cousin, who
Okay.
actually overdosed.
Oh, wow. How far apart in age were they?
3 years.
3 years. Okay, so that's 2010. He's on
That's
the beach, just
him.
kind of chilling.
That's him. Maybe he's 26. He was,
Okay.
looking normal on the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then even 2015, which is shot number 4, that's a year before he died. I mean, he's a
little chunkier because he wasn't exercising.
well, he probably wasn't playing hockey so much.
Yeah, he wasn't at all. And he's with my brother who
Is that
taught
the
him golf,
okay.
and my sister-in-law Carol, who
Okay.
the two of them have tried so hard to help him.
Yeah, you did say that they were
Yeah.
really supportive in the book.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the one that really struck me, I mean, I looked at all these pictures. He looked healthy. He looked full of life. And then there's the one picture with the dog. It's frame number 16 for Jolie. It just, all of a sudden, it's like, oh my, wow. When was that taken?
I think that was 2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
But was it like wintertime because he's got the hat on?
Got the hat on.
Okay. Because that was, so the 2015 on the beach versus 2015
Yeah.
here. I mean, that's noticeable.
It is noticeable.
And then roughly, 6 months later.
Exactly. He just fell apart.
So we're
Yeah.
almost out of time. But if I had what would be your, okay. Now you mentioned his cousin had passed away. And who was Paul?
That was another cousin.
That was another
passed
cousin.
away.
Now, both of them died prematurely. Do you think that they had an impact on Gino's problem at all?
No, they were older than him.
Okay.
When Paul was 40 when he died, and
Okay.
he was a recovering alcoholic, but he died from not just overdosing, but the results of it.
Okay. Oh, and this is another good question. I know we're out of time, but I really want to squeeze this in. Right before he died, the two of you went back to Governor's Academy in the spring. Do you think it was his way of saying goodbye because he knew he was leaving, or was he trying to hold on to the past when life was happier for him?
I think subconsciously he knew he was going to go. I
Okay.
think in a spiritual sense he knew he was going to go.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Well,
do.
Okay. I really, there's so many other questions that I'd love
Yeah,
to
it's
hear
too
from
bad
you.
we don't have another.
So I know. Well,
That's okay, but
anyway,
if you
I'm gonna hold up the book because it's called Hat Tricks from Heaven, and Hat Tricks is a hockey reference because he was so good at playing hockey.
Yes.
And
thank you.
where is this available on Amazon?
It's available online, Amazon, my
Okay.
website, which is kategenovesebooks.com.
Okay.
Or any place, and I'm having a book signing on the February 25th at Bookends in Winchester.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
good to know.
Yeah.
So thank you very much
Well,
for
thank
sharing your
you.
story.
Yeah, thank you.
I can't imagine how hard it must be for you to keep telling it, but I do really, really appreciate it. And I hope everyone at home enjoyed, or not really enjoyed, but appreciated our conversation and learned a little bit. that there is a problem out there that we really need to focus on and help others that are in the same situation that Gino and Kate experienced. So anyway, thank you very much for tuning in this evening, and I will see you around town. Good night.